Diane Abbott says she misspoke when she got confused over the cost of Labour's pledge for 10,000 extra police officers for England and Wales. Ms Abbott, the Shadow Home Secretary, said it would cost £300,000 over 4 years before correcting herself to about £80 million, in an interview with LBC. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn later confirmed the policy would cost £300 million. Ms Abbott claimed she had got her facts right in other interviews and her credibility had not been damaged. "I do know my figures," she told. She claimed that she had repeated them correctly in 6 other interviews before her appearance on LBC, and blamed the media for focusing on her gaffe, rather than the real issue of cuts to police numbers and increases in violent crime. Labour is promising to put 10,000 more police on the streets of England and Wales if it wins the election, to be paid for by reversing Conservative plans in the 2016 budget for capital gains tax cuts. But the Conservatives said Labour had already committed the money they planned to raise from the capital gains tax changes to fund other pledges. Under Labour's plans, the 43 forces in England and Wales would get an additional 10,000 police officers over 5 years. It will not apply to Scotland or Northern Ireland where policing is devolved. But Ms Abbott got mixed up in an interview with LBC's Nick Ferrari as she was quizzed about the cost of the policy. Her estimate of the number of new recruits ranged from 25,000 to 250,000, while her first attempt to come up with a bill for the policy, £300,000, meant each new officer would have cost £30 a year. Her second attempt left them costing about £8,000 a year. The BBC's assistant political editor Norman Smith said it was a toe-curling moment, but there was a serious point. Either Ms Abbott, who aspired to run the Home Office, had not done her homework on a key policy announcement, or Labour's numbers were a bit flaky. Asked on a campaign visit to Southampton if he was embarrassed by the gaffe, Mr Corbyn said, "Not at all, we've corrected the figure and it'll be absolutely clear now, today and in the manifesto. I'm not embarrassed in the slightest." He insisted Labour's plans for extra spending on police and other public services, to be funded by an estimated £2.7 billion in savings from reversing capital gains tax cuts, were fully costed. But the Conservatives said Ms Abbott had floundered when pressed over how the policy would be paid for and accused Labour of already pledging to spend the capital gains tax money on schools, welfare and the arts. Diane Abbott has laid bare the chaos that Britain would face if Jeremy Corbyn is voted into Downing Street, Home Secretary Amber Rudd said. One of Corbyn's closest allies has clearly shown that Labour's sums don't add up, they would weaken our defences, and their nonsensical promises aren't worth the paper they are printed on. Jeremy Corbyn has said a 20,000 decrease in officer numbers under the Conservatives since 2010 was unacceptable. Community policing means uniformed officers being visible, local and accessible. They engage with the public, have a detailed local knowledge and build a network of relationships, he said. Ms Abbott told BBC Radio 4's Today they wanted an extra police officer to be put on the beat in every electoral ward in the country. What local police forces are crying out for is more manpower, she added. In the Metropolitan Police, although they have not cut police numbers, they have cut civilian staff, and in practice that means there are fewer policemen available. I think police forces are going to be very grateful for this extra manpower, and it is going to be community policing. Capital gains tax, which is paid on the profit made from the sale of assets which have increased in value, was slashed in the 2016 budget. The higher rate was cut from 28% to 20%, while the basic rate was reduced from 18% rate to 10%. The Lib Dems said the figures being talked about by Labour were fanciful. They have already committed to spending the revenue raised from reversing Tory cuts to the capital gains tax many times over, Shadow Home Affairs spokesman Lord Paddock said. Under the Conservatives the police workforce has been reduced by almost 20%. This has eroded the community policing that we all rely on and left us all a little less safe, but what we need is concrete policy proposals. Diane Abbott has compounded a stumbling radio interview with a follow-up television interview in which she appeared not to know how much she would be raising taxes by. The Shadow Home Secretary seemed unaware of the rate Labour would be raising capital gains taxes to or from in a follow-up appearance on television this afternoon. Labour today announced that it will be recruiting 10,000 police officers paid for by reversing cuts to capital gains tax introduced by the Conservatives. Ms Abbott, who was sent out to sell the policy, however appeared unaware of its detail in a radio interview on LBC. In one interview she gave estimates of how much the new officers would cost ranging from £300,000 to £80 million. She also made several estimates of the number of officers to be recruited per year, ranging from 25,000 to 250,000. Appearing on the BBC's Daily Politics programme later the same afternoon she defended her performance, telling the presenter, "I did 7 interviews this morning. In that 7th interview I misspoke." But asked repeatedly what the rate of capital gains tax was and what she would be raising it to in order to fund the policy she appeared unable to say. "We are going to reverse the cuts to capital gains tax in order to fund a number of things including the 10,000 police officers," she said, when asked specifically about the rate. "We currently have some of the lowest rates of corporation tax in Europe." Asked again about what the rate was and would be, she said, "We will bring them back to where they were before, that's the point." Asked again she said, "The point is that it will save us nearly £2.7 billion. That's what we're going to use both to pay for the 10,000 policemen and for other areas of our manifesto." She concluded, "We will produce a manifesto that is costed and is paid for."